are pleased to be joined right now by our state representative from the 69th District. Cindy Harrison's with us. Cindy, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning to all your listeners.
You're a member of the Appropriations Committee. You can address the budget stuff for us a little bit. And, people always want to know tax cuts, tax changes. What's in this thing, Cindy?
Well, I will say that the Appropriations Committee worked very hard this year, and both sides of the aisle were well represented. The Republicans asked a lot of questions to dig deeper into the budget, and I thought we did a very good job to bring forward something that was, successful and probably one of the more bipartisan budgets that we've had in a long time. As we know, when we went to vote on it, and we know that the budget is a 2-year process, so we always should look ahead a little bit as to what's there. But I think what's interesting for people to know is the budget was released at 3 a.m. And there's a window that we're supposed to have 12 hours to look at it before it's called. So 3 a.m., we go into session at 10:30 in the morning, and they call it at 10:50 at night. It was 832 pages. And it also was not the budget alone. It included the revenue package and the implementer all in one document. So it makes it sort of a little tough to get through all of it in that time span. I have to say personally, I took every spare moment I had to flip through it and to look at it. But when they called it, they immediately called an amendment to it, which was an additional 75 pages. And as you read through it, you're like, you're flipping and you're reading. 15 pages of it were some corrections to the budget. And the remaining 60 pages were additional pieces of implementation, just things that either didn't have a public hearing, things that they just felt to call. I think one of the most notable ones is as I was flipping through this amendment that they added, I look at all the first 15 pages that have to do with changes to the budget, and the next thing I look at, and I'm reading stuff about voting, federal voting, John Lewis, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And as I went to ask, some of our research staff about it, it was a bill that was up in the Senate, voted out of the Senate, and rather than call it on the House floor, they shoved it into this amendment and the implementer. So some of the other things that I thought were a little bit crazy in the budget, $5 million was put in to go directly to 7 farms out in Franklin. We have farms on the west, the western part of Connecticut, and there was no allocated money to them. And I think we could all bring up no allocations for our charter school in Danbury. So we'll start with that. Maybe you have some questions and we can keep going.
Oh, no. I think it's just fascinating, though, if you could sell tickets and people could be in just to view the process, because you don't want them mucking up what's already mucked up. I think you'd have some great reality television going on.
Yeah.
It's beyond, some may call it fascinating. I say, what the heck is going on here? But ultimately, here are the things the public cares about. And number one is, how's my tax situation going to be? Are there going to be income tax changes that residents can expect that actually could make a difference, Cindy?
So tax changes that could make a difference, I'd like to say I hope so. That's certainly, what they're proposing, and everybody would love tax changes. There is some changes and reductions to the income tax rates. I'm a proponent to do something with the sales tax. Sales tax is the most regressive tax, and that means it affects lower income people at a greater rate than it does, our higher income people. But they did not touch the sales tax. They didn't reduce the 1% tax, meals tax that we all know about. We did make a proposal to take that 1% meals tax and help to, use it, reinvest it back into kind of what it's being collected for. So to take a quarter of that 1% and use it to help fund, arts and culture and tourism. But that didn't move forward. I'm not on finance, so I can't speak to what happened in that committee. But, those are just my thoughts about it.
Yeah, but no. And again, it's like, if people knew what was really, or they took the time to look into what's actually going on, there might be a lot of hair pulling going on with people saying, what is transpiring here? But there's something I want to do, and I want to give you and some of your fellow reps, as we talk here with State Rep Cindy Harrison on WLAD. I want to give you and some of your cohorts a pat on the back because you've shown constant concern for our state veterans. I know you were at some ceremonies, and that is much appreciated. And as far as, because you mentioned, arts and things like that, I know that you were part of helping out Mariel up in the New Milford area.
Yep, that's true. So part of our proposal with this, if we had taken 0.25%, was to, if people, to your point, if they read the budget, I think they would be astounded at, just certain nonprofits get money and others don't. And there's, they're just handed that money, and there's no grant system, and there's no way for us to monitor what those nonprofits are doing. And so if we would put a grant, take that money and put in a grant system, we certainly could then ask people to apply. We could have metrics that were gauging how taxpayer dollars are being spent on nonprofits. And I've voiced, I'm in Commerce also, and I've voiced that. I think that exposing families, young children to arts and culture certainly broadens their horizons. But, and I'm not saying we shouldn't support things like the Bushnell, but we all know we have the Mariel Center, we have the Thomaston Opera House, we have other smaller venues all around the state that certainly is more affordable for, different income levels of families. And I would love to see us be able to put in a grant system that would allow for us to monitor the metrics, but be able to give money to some of these smaller venues.
What else is coming down the pipe? Are there things that people should have their eye on or keep somewhere in their brain for coming down the pike? Some
of the things that got added into this budget, when we had the session in 22, we increased Medicare for undocumented children from 8 to 12, and this budget increases it to 15. On the other hand, I think one of the good things we did do with Medicare is we've increased the rates for our ambulance services, which, are so desperately in need of that. One of the things we looked at in the budget is the amount of personnel that were budgeted for the state, and we were able to change some of the number of heads that the state was funding and make it more realistic. We were able to add money to put in some good software programs to make our financial packages, which I think is good. We funded a group to study elderly nutrition, and we added some money to the senior meal delivery programs, which we also know is desperately needed. Those are some good things.
Well, yeah.
We're certainly paying, thank God we still have the guardrails in place, or if anyone was paying attention, we voted those back in early in the session so that for this budget, they were in place again. And we all know that was, an initiative from 2017 and how well it's worked to help pay down especially all the pension debt. So we're making progress on that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your efforts, and I don't care if there's no sessions or whatever. A rep's work is never done, Cindy, right?
Yeah, you have that right. You have that so right.
Well,
as you know, last week I was at, I spent a good portion of my day at an event, honoring our veterans, and was so happy to do it and to meet with them. We did some Korean War veterans, and then we followed that up, and we actually had 75 Vietnam veterans in Southbury that we were able to honor and to welcome home, and that was just such a privilege.
Yeah, and it's about time. It's about time, and so we're happy you're a part of that. Cindy, thanks so much for spending some time with us. Have a great rest of the day, and stay safe and stay well.
Hey, thank you so much, and you also, and I hope your listeners all stay cool today.